Hi, my name is Rebecca Lee, and I co-wrote this book, The Mercury Detoxification Manual, with Andy Cutler, PhD, who I always say should have got the Nobel Prize for what he figured out. So when I haul myself out of bed in the morning, I turn on my trusty phone to see if anything has improved in the world. One newsletter I read is Age of Autism, which I've been following faithfully for years. Age of Autism announced that SafeMinds.org announced a new hair test that measures the chemicals in a strand of hair. This analysis of the exposome shows the child's cumulative environmental exposure in relationship with essential nutrients. The test designers hope that being able to do this will help with early diagnosis of autism, because that is all they've got, early diagnosis. Here in the world of Andy Cutler Chelation, we have been looking at hair tests for 20 years. Andy wrote a whole book on how to interpret them. With a friend of his who was an expert statistician, he developed statistical tests to look for what he called deranged mineral transport of the essential elements that show up in the hair. Mercury messes with the way minerals move across cell membranes. If the patterns of the essential elements are out of whack, then it's Mercury doing it, because that's what Mercury and only Mercury does. Very often a very toxic person will have low mercury show up in their hair. Dr. Amy Holmes, in a study she did about mercury in the first cut baby hair, concluded that autistic kids tend to have low or no mercury showing in their hair. We see that all the time. They have low mercury on their test, but they almost always have the deranged mineral transport that indicates that it may not be showing up in their hair, but it is there, messing with how their bodies work, and possibly in a whole lot of different ways. What is important about what I'm saying in relation to the Exposome hair test is that if a child is toxic with mercury, most of the time you're not going to be able to glean anything useful from a hair test because of this phenomenon of deranged mineral transport. Mercury causes a whole lot of symptoms, over 250. In the detox manual, we quote a 2017 journal article which states, the resulting clinical picture can be differently associated to over 250 different symptoms involving the neurological, renal, respiratory, cardiovascular, hepatic, reproductive, and immune systems, and phytotoxicity and genotoxicity in humans. Once I met Del Bigtree at a showing of Vaxxed in Burlington, Vermont. I told him that these injuries were always mercury and still are mercury. People have just gotten confused about that, but we haven't, because we see all these positive hair tests for the kids that show up in our groups, and they get better and recover when you chelate them for mercury. The chelators don't touch aluminum, and presumably those other environmental toxins either, as they are not metals. Our children are really sick these days. It's not just autism. There are a whole lot of things wrong with them. They have diabetes and asthma and food sensitivities and allergies and arthritis and autoimmune issues, along with autism spectrum stuff. This picture fits mercury. It does not fit aluminum, which only causes a few symptoms. I don't know whether glyphosate or toxins like that can cause as much havoc as mercury, but I doubt it. And having mercury in your body eventually impairs your ability to detox other things, so aluminum and glyphosate may get retained because of the mercury, and mercury and other heavy metals are synergistic too. He didn't believe me. Del Bigtree didn't believe me, which I'm used to. He thought that autism is caused by a variety of different things. Yes, well, there is often lead and sometimes arsenic and a few other metals, but the main offender is mercury. It always was mercury, and it still is mercury. Get it out of the little kids and they recover. Andy observed that 50% recover with no other intervention than Andy Cutler Chelation. Another 25% need chelation and some other therapies. And for the final 25%, it's not metals. Personally, I'm starting to think that the odds are even better than what he calculated. To read a couple of success stories or several success stories, you can go to www.cutlersuccessstories.weebly.com. There are many others, but we don't have any organization to get people to compile them, and nobody is making any money out of counseling these families. Or if they are making money, it's not very much. As I often say, there's not much money in doing good.